Shaily Sanghvi, and I run a small studio kitchen in the heart of South Bombay. The Next Door Baker is what it's called. It's basically a home bakery, and what we do is we serve delectable, quality, eh, brilliant desserts. The Next Door Baker started in 2015. Honestly, I don't have any educational qualification. I'm not graduated from a pastry school or anything, so I wouldn't call myself a pastry chef. But I have worked hands-on. I have learned everything that I know through experiments. I by education I'm a software engineer, so I have a mind of an engineer, but I have hands of a pastry chef. I come from a Gujarati family, which means food is at the core of our values. I was, I think, around 11 months old when my mom told me that I stopped having milk because food was something I enjoyed more. I think that kind of is instilled in what I do. I love food in general, and dessert is something that is always cherry on the cake. My nani and my mom are brilliant cooks, and they've passed on secrets which I've used up in curating brilliant menus for the Next Door Baker. So after graduating from my engineering school, I worked for 2 years, and I realized that it didn't make me happy. Like, it sounded more like a monotonous life where every day I woke up, I went to work, I coded for like 10 hours. There was no mental satisfaction at the end of the night when I slept. So that's when I thought that maybe I should venture into something that actually made me happy. And obviously, like I said, I'm a Gujarati, so nothing makes me happier than food. So I juggled with my software job and the Next Door Baker for 10 straight months, which meant I slept for 3 hours every night to know that this venture has to work because that's something that's going to give me a lot of happiness for the rest of my life. And that's where I officially launched the Next Door Baker as my little baby, is what I would call it. And since then, it's been one of the best decisions of my life was quitting my job to do something I actually love. Honestly, when COVID happened, the biggest fear was not knowing what it is. I think people didn't know how it's going to affect our lives, where it's coming from, how it's spreading. So, not knowing the next step is what was feared by everybody. And I think when COVID struck, it was the first maybe a couple of weeks where people were terrified of wanting to get out of their houses or touch anything that wasn't made in their own house. Uh, but I think food or desserts in general was pretty inelastic. Um, the demand for it didn't really drop down to a level where I actually had to shut shop. It took a little while for people to celebrate birthdays or anniversaries, but it didn't really affect the business as much as I anticipated it to affect our business. What actually has affected is the whole outlook in which we approach the business. Like ceremonies or say weddings or even celebrations in general have become more intimate. They've gotten smaller. So when we had weddings for say 500 people, we were looking at cakes which are like 20, 30 kgs, really huge. Now people want smaller wedding cakes, which meant lesser business monetary wise, but it's still, people are still celebrating. One thing that got majorly affected was our supply chain, because a lot of the things that we use are imported from Belgium and Australia. Both these nations had shut their borders for a very long time. They had quarantines. They shut markets. So getting our raw materials imported was extremely difficult, which meant we also had to pay a high import duty to get things in place. Because at the Next Door Baker, I'm a firm believer that no matter what, you don't sell things, but you don't sell things cheap. We do not, at any circumstances, compromise on the quality of the ingredients that we use, which meant that I had to shut shop because of the lack of availability of raw materials, which was one of the most heartbreaking things I ever had to imagine, that there will come a point in time where I will not have access to raw materials. So working in a kitchen always meant that your sanitization is always top notch. Whether COVID, non-COVID, we always have to make sure that we're constantly working with gloves on, our products, our tools, everything is every day sanitized. But with COVID, it felt like we were doing more because it nothing, no matter what we did, it just felt like, what if it's not enough? That fear at the back of our mind was constantly there. So we changed a lot of our procedures. the way we were handling the premises in which our products came in from, how we sanitized the packaging, and every little thing was taken care of. Um, I think that changed a lot because we not only had to make sure that we are not worried about passing something from our side, but we also had to make sure that our clients are constantly assured that we are taking every little precaution, even if it meant that we went over and above in doing the whole sanitization safety protocols. So I think that's something that made a lot of difference in how we did business. I was awarded LBB Mumbai's favorite home baker in 2019. That's, I think, been one of the biggest highlights because that was a People's Choice Award, which meant that people nominated me to compete, and we were judged by none other than Rachel Goenka of the Sassy Teaspoon chain. Um, I was awarded Mumbai's favorite home baker in 2019. I want to see myself in a much bigger studio kitchen working, and I also want to delve into the art of teaching pastry, which I think I've learned something or I've managed to get better at over the last few years, and I want to pass that on. So I want a pastry academy sort, but I also want a cute little cafe which serves epic coffee and serves really good coffee and really good bread. Um, Working in a kitchen means that you cannot just be a smart worker. You have to be somebody who's willing to put in the long hours, willing to put the hard work. I think that's extremely important. And I think just an education enough is not enough. Like, you can't just graduate from a pastry school and be like, I'm ready for the kitchen, because what the amount of work that goes in, it'll only come if that passion is driving you, because otherwise the number of hours, no matter how many hours you stand, if you hate your job or if you hate the long hours, you're never going to succeed in this industry. You have to be able to love what you do, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths you need if you ever want to succeed in this field. Making desserts is not just craft. I think it has a lot to do with understanding how ingredients work together, how they're stacked together, which means chemistry, physics. A lot of it is involved. Understanding the basics of these things is extremely important. That's I think that's something that forms the groundwork to build something up for any industry, and I think that's how it works even for pastry. I also teach under the umbrella of TNDB way of caking, which means whatever I've learned or whatever I've managed to understand over the years, I pass it on to people, not only just recipes, but I explain them the why and the how. And because, like I said, I'm from an engineering background, if you tell me that if you replace X with Y, the recipe will work, it'll not work for me. You have to tell me why the Y will work, or I have to figure it out why the why will work. Otherwise, it's just blindly copying something which is not what I believe in. You have to be able to understand what you're doing. And I think at the Next Door Baker, it's about constant innovation every single day, creating something that you're proud of. And I'm really, really proud of the Next Door Baker. Lastly, I'd really like to thank the world of recognition for appreciating the efforts of somebody who's extremely passionate about their work. And I'll keep doing better every day for this.